Okay, so Anu, you're the founder of PPC Live UK, and you do the PPC Chat Roundup, just everything that's happening for there, thrown into a podcast, discussing it. PPC, specifically Google Ads, has been changing so rapidly, especially over the past year, even the past few months. I mean, what are your advice for PPC professionals or people running their own account or in-house? What are some tips for them to keep their accounts under control and profitable with all these rapid changes?
I think one of the most important things, which as much as change happens, one thing that will never change is knowing your business data, knowing your client's data, knowing what success looks like for you.
Yeah.
And that has never changed. And no matter how AI changes or, how many ad copies that you can have in an ad group or, whether it's RSAs or PMAX or it's broad that you're using, it's all going to be about, are you getting the right customers for your client? Are the people who are coming through to the site converting in the right way? And is your tracking system understanding what a conversion is so that you know what is working? Because, you can just get a bit bogged down into like, oh, a new shiny tool has come up. I need to test it. But your data will tell you whether you need to or not. There's a very famous saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So if you're
Yeah.
doing something that is working, that has not hit your diminishing point of return, like if you've not reached there, you're still seeing growth from a channel. Don't get distracted because there's a new shiny tool out there. Keep doing what you need to do if you're seeing growth from what you're currently doing.
That's really good advice. The day to day hasn't changed, which I've seen. Ed Leaks said that, and Kirk Williams, and a lot of other speakers. That's the ongoing thing with PPC experts that are putting out the publications. Your day to day, the foundation of it hasn't changed. The
No.
optimizing, like you said, knowing your goals, all the buttons have moved literally, if you get the new interface, which I'm not a huge fan of, but and all the shiny new tools, but the foundation of it is the same. Keep on
It
track with
is.
your goals, your main KPIs. It's funny you mentioned this saying in Texas. Here, it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's probably the Texan version. That's not really proper, but that's how we say
Isn't
it.
that what I said?
You
So
said if
that's
it's
what I
if
meant to
it's
say. If it
not
ain't broke,
broke,
don't fix it. If
yeah,
it's
no,
not
you,
broke,
you
don't
you
fix
said
it.
it the proper way. We
All
said
right, the
ain't,
problem.
which is a
Right.
mess of a sentence. Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's
Yeah.
maybe that should change. That's not proper. But
No, it's
yeah,
okay.
no, that's still the same. And even with all the new tools, the foundation is the same. And I hope that helps people, whether it's DIY business owners in-house or managing accounts for clients. You have a lot of clients. It's like every quarter there's something new. Am I on track? Do I need to change everything? Is this client okay now that this whole
Mhm.
new thing came out or things went away? So I hope that helps people. And you mentioned some of those shiny objects, the new tools and everything. Let's break some of those down and how people can use it, when to not use it. I mean, what's the thing you think that's probably popped up the most and has the most confusion that you could sort out and share some expertise about?
Um, Now to be fair, I'll make it clear that for me in the past, like let's say 4 or 5 years, so my role has been as an account director, someone who looks at things from a strategic point of view. Um, and I think that's where a lot of value, is moving towards because AI and automation and, the whole like PMAX campaign is going to has removed pretty much the more mundane day-to-day, creating like a specific kind of ad copy for every variation of keyword
Yeah,
because they're bigger companies. There's loads of inventory that you need to deal with. And when you come with e-commerce, you can't do things as granular anymore individually. And it doesn't make sense to. And to be fair, being one of those people where I've always been pro automation before it really became a thing, because I'm always like, give me a good template, even if it's for like, data, pulling out data, doing reports, give me a good template so that it takes me a few minutes for me to just plug in the data and have my standard item template that I can, present to a client. So in terms of like what to be looking at, what to be doing in terms of, let's say, automation, for example, again, we just need to be in a state of being able to test and learn and knowing how to test. That is a paid manager's or PPC person's best, superpower, knowing how to test properly, knowing how to give whatever you're testing enough time to learn, being able to put that testing plan together. That will actually be the most important part of this testing process. Not even while you're, pouring the data and waiting for it to do anything, or while you're, putting it all together. The testing plan, start date, end dates. What does good data look like? What does bad data look like? Do we have enough data to plug into the system to show us the result? Because if you can't make decisions based on, I don't know, 5 clicks,
Yeah.
in 2 weeks. You cannot, or sometimes you cannot even make a decision based on one day of data. But depending, if you have enough data, you might be able to make a decision based on one day of data. So, it's that plan together of literally going, we need, these amounts of impressions, these amounts of clicks to be able to like know the right volume will then show the significant, performance. And then from that performance, we can then make a long-term decision. So like, I think we should definitely try to be a lot more like private investigators. It's not about changing bids. It's not about writing, granular ad copy. It's really about figuring out what will work, how to use Performance Max, not just use Performance Max and, throw it all in and do whatever Google says.
Yeah.
Don't always do what Google says. Google is not always wrong, but also Google are working for Google's interest at the end of the
Right.
day. They're trying to increase their market share. They're trying to increase their profits. They're trying to, grow year on year. And if that means at a loss of a lot of their advertisers, that's so be it for them, right? So you need to focus on what is working towards the growth of your client, not just let's just use anything anyhow, how Google has said it. Test and learn. Test and learn is the biggest takeaway anyone should get from this recording.
Yeah, you mentioned an interesting point that I think not all PPC managers do, or just marketing managers, or any level, even if you're not hands-on, more of a marketing director or executive or something like that, you'd want to know is making that plan in advance, which a lot of people are reactive. It's just kind of, okay, it's been running a week, shut it off. It's been running a day, a month, 60 days. We forgot about it, and it's been there for 6 months, which
Yeah.
happens. I like that plan. It kind of elaborate on a little bit more going into it. Like, okay, is this a 1 week test? Is this a quarterly test? How can people plan out what they're going for before it even goes live to better watch the automation?
So it's two things. It's volume and how much budget you have. Um, because I said, sometimes you get the right volume in a few days. Sometimes you need to wait a week. You need to wait a month, that kind of stuff. And there's some calculations that I remember when I was very much like, PPC manager, tactical, hands-on person, is that we'd use even a formula to decide whether the data we're seeing has statistical significance. And I feel not a lot of people, I don't necessarily see that being asked about or being used that, more often. People are just like, this is not working. Oh yeah, there's the cannibalization's been done. I don't know. This is, oh yeah, turn it off. But have you really tested the data to see whether the data that you're seeing is statistically significant? So like you should leave room for unexpectedness, but you should definitely put like, you know, like measures in place of what, which one it reaches. Like aim for a certain amount of impressions or a certain amount of days or weeks or months even. And it's all about, especially, because there's predominantly like agencies who will be wanting to do this test, and it might be that you're trying to win the client over and convince them that we need to do this test or not. Like those are the kind of things that you need to be clear from the beginning so that when you do get buy-in, they're not panicking after a week. They're not panicking after 2 weeks. You've guided them as to what you guys are waiting for. Because it's the wait. It's painful. It's annoying. Every pound has been spent or a dollar has been spent and client is going, nothing is coming through. And you just need to be like, look, remember what the plan is. Remember, this is what we're waiting for. We've got to do it that way to be able to, at the end of the day, say whether this thing unequivocally worked or didn't work.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice, having that plan in place before you launch, which I
Yes.
think a lot of PPC people don't do, whether you're pitching it to a client, we're going to test $5,000 for 30 days or adjust
Yeah.
to however big or small the client is, or in-house if it is your job and you're kind of pitching it to the higher ups, or the other way around, you want to test something in Google and you are the higher up making the decision. You have to have the time and the budget, and then that way you can work backwards. And I think that's when a PPC manager, when they're in there, they can switch it to more so the language they speak. Okay, we're getting this many impressions but not clicks. Let's look at the ad, or let's look at the keywords being targeted, or getting a lot of clicks and no conversions. You can go back in and keep the automation on track, because sometimes it does go crazy. It'll pick a search term or a keyword and just 80% of it goes to that. And then you have a
Yeah.
ton of clicks and no conversions. It's like, well, that's an example to negative something out. Even with
Yeah.
automation, you would do it negatives, or you'd remove it, or everything's in place, but maybe it's a landing page issue. The automation can't really get it convert because it's terrible there. So you do what PPC professionals normally do, but add that plan on top of it. And then you could look at
Yeah.
impressions and clicks or conversions. CPA is too high. Maybe you could go backwards. What's a high CPC and a high CPA? Maybe that keyword's not in the right one, or going back to quality of leads or sales or conversion value, and just work backwards. But having the main plan in place to also put on top of PPC brains, we're in there looking at all this data and everything and being really reactive, but without how long is this running, what's the main budget, what's the end goal to test it. I think that would bridge the gap between the more technical, analytical kind of PPC people that are in it every day, and the higher ups or the clients or the decision makers, putting that in place so we're all in the same place, and it stops that. Hey, it's been a week. What's happening? It's been 2 days. What's happening? It's like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't need to check in with me every day, and please don't.
We don't. Yeah.
Yeah, just putting that plan in place in advance would help a lot, and surprisingly, most people don't do that.
Yeah, and it will definitely be based on the data the client has already shared with you. And that's why it's really important for, paid search managers to really communicate that, their data is very important. The past activity they're doing is very important. And that's why it's very important to make sure that you're doing paid search the right way. You're putting all the foundations in place. It's not just about, it's really dangerous for you to get a paid search manager that might just try to doctor the system to make sure that the client sees the data that they want, because you then want to base your test, plan on the performance that they've been seeing, on the kind of volumes that they're currently seeing, on the kind of budgets that is currently being spent, because from the data that we'll see from the accounts, I can say that, oh, okay, for a month, you'll probably spend 5K. So we will put a plan together to spend 5K, and our time period is 1 month, because we know from the past data that we can receive that kind of, you know, enough volume to actually make a decision within a month's time. So it's just really important to also ensure that you've worked with the right people, because unfortunately it has come up several times where people will just do like a kind of like a money back guarantee that, Lord, will get you the exact right results you want in this time period. And they are making stuff up, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And then even if that client might see from a point of view, well, I'll get my money back anyway, it's a money back guarantee. They would have put things in place that then makes the next person who's trying to do paid search well from you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And Google is not going to give you back the money. Whatever you actually spend through your clicks, Google is not going to be like, oh, well, your agency promised your money back guarantee, so here's the money that you spend with us as well. That's not going to happen.
No,
you lose.
Yeah, that's on their fee, not Google's fee.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's a lot to be accounted for historical data. Historical data is very important for putting good testing plans together. So, clients should, keep that in mind and just make sure that they're being very savvy in terms of who they're working with.
Yeah, and I think coming up with that test plan and that test budget just goes right into how do you properly test all the new shiny objects and everything coming up. It's like you planned this whole thing just now. It's just having the plan in place. It's like when Performance Max came out. Some people tested it properly. Let's take a little bit of budget. And some people did it the wrong way. Pause everything and launch Performance Max. It's like, well, we've had this search campaign that worked for years. Leave that alone and test a little bit of Performance Max. Or shopping works. Don't test Performance Max. You don't have to test it just because it came out, or we're maxed out. We need some new options. We have a very high budget. Yeah, let's take $30,000 and throw it towards Performance Max and see what happens. And if you lose it, in some clients or some budgets, that's fine. We're testing new things. And I think having that plan so that when everything comes up, now it's once a quarter, you can plan with higher ups and you could plan with clients or your boss, or the other way around. If you're the higher up, put some money aside for, you think that's kind of the way to do it. Now, when new technology does come up, just put a budget and a plan together to test all these new things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is always, every year, any planning time period that you've got, even like in Q4 where people are like, oh no, everything needs to be ready for Black Friday or, some holiday, sales and all that kind of stuff. Put a percentage to, like, Google is going to come out with something this quarter, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
They will. So to be ready for that and to make sure that you do have enough budget that goes into the things that are working well, but also you put money into areas where it could be an opportunity. Make sure you have a percentage set aside for testing things.
Yeah, because they just keep coming out with new things, and some of it's new on top of what's already out, like Performance Max, and then some of it you have to switch and learn new things. Similar audiences went away. There's an expanded audience, which isn't really the same thing. You have to see, do you want to do that or not? Or double layering with display. That was a little more technical, but it doesn't matter. It went away. And then, going to Discovery going away and the new one coming out, the demand gen thing coming out, and all these other ones. It's like, do you want to use it, or did it replace something and you have to learn the new thing? Which GA4, it doesn't really matter what you thought of it. The old one is gone. You have to learn the new one, and you have to replace the old one. So I think just finding a balance between that two. Some things you test, some things you don't, or if dynamic search does get rolled into performance, or it goes away or gets rolled into Performance Max, or whatever they're going to do with it. Hopefully they don't. I like it and we have clients using it, but it's just changing. You test something new or you go a new direction.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not just it's either testing or going in a new direction, and that new direction is not always bad, because if you need to also, like, remember, because I do feel like and you might not like to hear this, dynamic search ads, it's a matter of time that I feel is going to get into Performance Max.
It will.
There's no really point, right? But it's about remembering because at some point, dynamic search ads was a bit of a cowboy kind of way of doing things. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to give Google a URL and it's just going to, create my ad copy for me. And you put a lot of measures in place, negatives in place, set the website, you optimize the website a lot more, work more with CRO, I imagine, to just ensure that Google is getting the right information. So I feel that you take that history, is what I said about history, take that history of what you did to make sure your dynamic search ads now are now working well for you, and you bring that into Performance Max. You
Yeah.
kind of make sure that you guys take that learnings, you kind of put all the measures in place, put all migrate over the same kind of negatives, the same kind of settings in place, making sure it's pointing to the right part of the site to ensure the right things get done. Some things are being done are the same but in a different way, kind of thing. I think we're still going to have a form of dynamic search ads, but it's just going to be in the Performance Max, that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily learning something brand new. It's just calling it something different and putting in a different kind of campaign and knowing how the structure works to your best interest.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just adjusting the client goals. I mean, we have some clients where Performance Max made sense immediately. We're just trying to get in front of their audience and blasting it out everywhere at the same time and optimizing whatever works best. That was a great idea. And we launched it and it worked very well. And branded wasn't really an issue. They had kind of a generic name that crisscrossed, so you almost couldn't block their brand. Some companies do that. It's
Yeah.
ABC Furniture Store. It's like, well, I can't block Furniture Store. That's what you are. So many people have their name and what it is crisscross. But that worked really well. And we still have some clients where I don't think Performance Max will ever work. Well, I never say never, but at the moment, it doesn't make sense. So some of the new technology jumped on, did that right away. Other ones, not so much. But I wanted to circle back to one other thing. Another one that's coming up more. It's that Google does a pretty good job with the automation, and you need to put things in place to keep it in check. Still your negatives or portfolio bidding or some other things. But what are your thoughts on layering third-party software on top of it too? Google does an okay job, but you throw on third-party automated bidding, and then it does a great job. Or some people say that's a necessity, or some people say just stick with Google. What are your thoughts on layering third-party bidding, automation, the Google tools, or third-party software that goes on top of to help you manage your account now?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I'm not just saying it because I've just left working for a tech company and I'm in the process of looking at contracts for working for another tech company. But Google are working in Google's best interest.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and this definitely is important to check, how well another bidding tool, tech tools, bidding suite would work for you. And you might test another, suite tool and find that, oh, actually, Google Smart Bidding is actually working better for me. But, I do feel like there's such a variety out there. There's enough of the variety out there, enough of different tech tools who are doing things in different ways that it's worth your curiosity. It's worth it. Because that's the thing. It's, because some people are just like, well, Google Months might work for me. Who knows? Is it even is it a waste of time to even try? I'm not promising that either, Marin or Optimizer or ClickTech or any of these other companies will do a better job. But there's enough of them and the variety, and they have customers who are using their bidding tool that it is worth your curiosity to see whether it would work for you. Definitely worth your curiosity.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just go with the data. They're not really going to say this tool always works, whether that's
Yeah.
Google's tool, that's a third party tool. I mean, we use multiple ones, or, there's the spy tools, with SEMrush and SpyFu and 10 other ones, and the data looks different depending on which one you jump into and who's bidding on what keywords and historical performance of competitors and all these other things. It's just which tool is getting you the results you need.
Mm.
I think that's a huge one. Or maybe not a tool. Some people don't use tools. They just go straight in, or they use Google and that works well, or
Yeah.
Facebook or Microsoft Ads, or whatever other platform they're in. Which actually, another question following up on that, I think now GA4 with their attribution, it's trying. I mean, it's pretty good. It doesn't always work with attribution on all different models. And
Yeah.
what are new approaches you think to not just be on Google? I know we're mostly talking about Google, but top of the funnel, middle, bottom, all different channels. I mean, what do you think that's done, shifted now to be on multiple platforms, or even just going on a higher level, working with content and email and SEO to do the full marketing suite now, and how the importance has shifted to that?
There's a lot more importance now more than ever to have that shift. And because, and for me, I don't know whether I'm unique in that way, and I'm sure I'm not. There's probably several of us who from the very beginning, it's never been about, let me spend the PPC budget. It's been about, is PPC the right channel for you?
Yeah.
Is PPC continue? Is there growth? Have we done all we can in terms of doing PPC for, what your website can deliver? And one of my favorite trajectories in my career, because at the beginning I started with agencies and then I went in-house. And one of my first in-house jobs were with this company called Premier Farnell, who like we were, I was part of like the in-house PPC team, and you were in charge of like the different territories kind of stuff. But then we worked closely with like the SEO department and the email marketing department, and we'd have a report that encapsulated all the channels and showed all the channels next to each other week on week, and we'd see the trends of each of the channels. And it was just very good and interesting to actually see how some of our trends were very similar to each other, some of the trends were different, and then sometimes even realizing how different the challenges that other channels are facing, we're facing as well, or the fact that maybe some places where we've dipped, another channel has gone up in that same timeline. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. So people are no longer using PPC, but maybe they're more interested in like email marketing, or, they move to SEO for this kind of keyword. So we know not necessarily that there has been a loss in PPC, or there's been a loss in PPC, but there's continued to be a gain for our client,
Yeah.
for the brand as a whole, which doesn't mean that paid search is failing. It just means we need to redirect focus. We just need to be like, okay, the opportunity for what we've been doing is not there anymore. We now need to find a new opportunity for PPC, that kind of stuff. And that never meant, oh, we weren't doing our jobs well, or, we've lost the client money. We've actually are expressing, oh, you can make a lot of better efficiencies because the searches we were going for, people are actually coming through another channel through it. So actually, let's save the money and transfer it to that channel. Let's give them more budget because it's working better for them. They're getting it at a lower cost, and that kind of stuff. And it was just a really good way to work in a very whole way. I said this time and time again. Paid site does not work in a silo.
No.
Any client that comes to me, especially when I started working freelance, and they go, oh, we're not doing any branding, we're not doing any channel, but we want to be on PPC because we want to be on the Google SERPs. I go, okay, I'll either train you first and then you'll go away, do a whole bunch of stuff, and then come back to me and then we can do some PPC,
Yeah.
because you can easily just then start doing PPC and in those cases, and you don't see the performance as well because they are not doing top of funnel well, they're not doing social well, they're not doing, a lot of things, or like I'd even like say, like someone who's a paid side professional with PPC Live UK, obviously I'm working on a lot on the marketing. Obviously, I believe in marketing, but I've not done any paid media yet because I'm like, I need to build the branding up first. I
Yeah.
think that is very key. That's very important because then when you start paying for stuff, it's efficient. I want to make sure when I start actually paying for media, it's efficient. And that gets done by doing the organic very well for a long period of time first.
Yeah, and we've seen that with clients when they have all the channels covered well, PPC works a lot better. Like
Yeah.
one I have permission to share. I know pedalindustries.com, they have cycling gear, quick plug for them. Their actual cycling gear for cycling racers and really serious cyclists that train, the owner himself said you can buy gear anywhere. That's a really hard thing to do with just ads, but he wants to get into their system, their club, get a lifetime value to where you always buy your gear there. And then they
Mm.
have training programs. He does one-on-one coaching. He has a book and just all of these things. We just need something to sell. And his main thing is a custom bag that nobody else has. You customize the entire bag, and the bags are the initial touch point, but then people buy the book, they buy the coaching, and then they buy all the other gear, and it snowballs from there. He has a daily blog, a great newsletter, and then organic goes up. We do a lot of Facebook, which lifts Google, with lifts Facebook, and then
Yeah.
his
Absolutely.
one huge thing was it's called the race day bag. No, I'm plugging him a lot. I didn't mean to, but the Google searches for race day bag when we started for about a year, nobody Googled that. And then race day bag, which is what it's called, it's kind of branded, kind of not. That on Google, that term just skyrocketed because they just saw it everywhere. We are doing some banner ads, some YouTube ads, ton of Facebook, and then race day bag. People Google that like crazy. And that's one of those,
Mm.
it's like, yes, all the other channels built it up and then now they Google it. And then now the brand, you have organic coming back because your brand is everywhere. People search it. So you say, well, is that a direct? Is that an organic? Is that a paid? Or then they sign up for the newsletter to get some cycling tips and then buy something. It's like yes, it's really hard to attribute that because you had 10 touch
Mm.
points and they hit every single channel. But
Yeah.
without all the channels working together, each one would be doing a little bit worse.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Yeah. It's really hard attribution or it's like a mythical art, to be fair, isn't
Yeah.
it? To be like, which one of the channel really was what was the perfect level? Which one was most important? Which one really drove the sale? Which one contributed? But it's best for that integrated strategy. It's best to understand that there needs to be a journey with it. There's always a journey. There's never just one touch point. And you just need to understand where your customers are. Audience research has also become very much important, very, very important. Lately, it's always been important because it's not just robots, clicking through, although sometimes it is.
Sometimes, yeah.
Let's not go into that.
Yeah,
And
that's a
that's why we
different
have
one.
companies for that. But at the end of the day, you're hoping that it's your customers, it's a lot of your customers, and customers are human beings. There are people who are on their phone while they're watching TV, while, all of a sudden someone trips on something and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we need that. And then all of a sudden everything works together
Yeah.
of like a perfect timing. And then all of a sudden they're, during their lunch break, they're on Google and all of a sudden they see a display ad and they're like, oh, and then they search for something and then they buy. And it's that whole journey of just knowing, researching how people interact with all their media, what the different things that influence them, and making sure then you are there at the right time, for the right amount of time, not being pestering, not being a little bit creepy about it. Sometimes it feels a bit like, whoa, I talked about that 5 minutes ago, and all of a sudden it's the first suggestion on my discovery phone. That's a bit weird.
Yeah.
But again, it helps, just keeping things top of mind for people, it helps. And people buy when there's repetition. They don't necessarily buy after the first or two times, but after like the fifth, sixth time, they're like, oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm going to go for it. And that's how people buy. And we need to know that that needs to be done, even if we are not really great at measuring it.
Yeah, and it's going to get harder and harder to measure it. I mean, you can kind of go for maybe first touch point. Let's try to get an email, micro conversion. Let's get them to watch the video. And even some cold audiences, we'll still track if they bought. I mean, maybe it's an email, but that landing page, you could have buy, or you could buy sign up, or get a free demo, schedule a call, sign up for the email. A lot of times with landing pages, we advise just put everything on there. You have your main point, but don't send them something for free and give us your email and just ignore book a demo call. It's like if they want to buy now, just let them get on the phone. It's like, I don't want your free 5 tips for something or other. Just where's your phone number? If they want to skip to the end of the funnel, let them. Don't put them at the beginning because some people do. It's like, I don't want a free thing. I don't want to, I'm ready to buy. Let me go ahead and buy it. I've already researched you, or just throwing on to, I want to come back to that, going to extra channels. I mean, I think being on multiple places is great, and just learning the new technology and going back to the beginning of the call, kind of how it makes sense, or does it make sense? Because now we have TikTok as a big player, and they might get suspended worldwide, and I don't know, and they disappear. And then there's Snapchat, and then, Twitter is now all over the news, and they're kind of sort of going to partner with the Google Display, and that might go away. And then some other social media is going to come out in a year, and everyone's, how do we get on that? You just have to see if it's a good fit, do the test budget like we talked about, and we're going to try TikTok for 30 days. Or the other thing, like Performance Max or these other ones, there's some people, we'll tell our clients, no, TikTok makes no sense. It's younger. It's really goofy videos with music and a bunch of garbage all over it. Some people, it's like, what? Maybe that's not, retirement planning or something. That's really not your demographic. If you've got fashion stuff, it usually younger people. You just have to think, would this company look good on TikTok, or would that make no sense? Or Snapchat. You have to have a test budget, or some channels just say no. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. We're not going to do it just because it's a new thing and everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about how some of these, it just makes me think about how some brands, they set themselves aside, not just about the things they do, but the things that they don't do.
Yeah.
A lot of the luxury brands, you really do the investigation, and they're not necessarily in terms of quality that much better than the cheaper brands, but they're like, what? We want to be a luxury brand. This is the price point that we're going to choose because we want a certain kind of people not buying our products, right?
Yeah.
They set themselves up as the people with these kind of, fashion sense, this kind of, these people in this socioeconomic class that we want doing our things. And as different brands, it is these same brands thinking about how that should affect how you do marketing as well. It should be about, it's not just about pricing. It's not just about pricing. It's about where the channels that your customers are, the channels, even though you might, someone will go, oh yeah, there's a wide variety of people on TikTok now, on Instagram now. Yeah, but what is your brand tone of voice and messaging and vision? Does it actually fit with, maybe there's like, because people will say that, okay, on TikTok, it's 80% or maybe 70%, people in their 20s kind of thing, early 30s. And, there's that little 20% of people that are older. Yeah, but does that make sense for your brand? Do those people actually want to see your brand while they're on TikTok when they're literally just looking to, do some doom scrolling and watch some people dancing and that kind of stuff? You actually have to think to yourself, what are your customers on those channels doing? And if they're not doing it to be sold something, don't go there. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and talking about the tone of it, there's some where your audience may be there, but it may not fit your company. If it's in a medical field, a hospital or something, it's like, I don't really think you can make that funny. I don't really think you should be making a goofy TikTok. It's more of a serious thing. It's a comfort thing. It's like that one I don't agree with, like a doctor or a hospital or some specialty treatment. It's like, maybe don't make a TikTok. Don't do that. I mean, Twitter is kind of a short form, and it's not necessarily funny. or some other channels. But I think some people, it's like, even though, yes, your demographic's there, doesn't fit your brand. Don't make a TikTok.
No.
Whereas some things they built off of TikTok, fashion and some other things.
Yeah.
They just dominate there. Or Facebook, which is more and more mixed crowd now, more so than
Yeah.
TikTok is. It's supposedly getting older. I don't know, but that's that. I think
It
they're
kind of is.
placing
Like,
me in
yeah,
that.
my
It's like,
mom
well,
is
I'm
on
not
there.
getting older. Yeah, that's what everybody says. My parents are on there, so I'm off of it. It's like
Amazing.
that did kind of
Yeah.
happen to Facebook, and it did get older, but I think the people that started with it are still on it, and I guess we're getting old. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
when it came out, so maybe that dates me a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I do remember as well. And I
it,
remember when it worked because I was at uni and they started it off as where it was only a select few
yeah,
universities on it, and my university wasn't on it, but people in like my halls of accommodation, others were on it. And oh yeah, that dates me. I should stop talking now.
yeah. No, to date myself more, maybe I shouldn't, but I remember it was MySpace and Facebook. And everyone's like, you got to get on Facebook. It's like, I already have a MySpace. Who cares? And now it all switched to Facebook, and then it went public. It wasn't university only, and everyone was all upset, and everyone's parents and aunts and uncles, and you'd post something,
Yeah.
and then it's like your mom would reply. It's like, I'm off this network. I'm done. It's not cool anymore.
Oh gosh, yeah, true,
Yeah,
true.
so you got to follow the trends with the different networks. Facebook. I think they
Yeah.
all went to TikTok and Instagram. That's kind of where younger people are, but that's mixed too. I mean, just follow your brand, what makes sense for you, and then where your target audience is. And again, this is just going. We said this at the very beginning. It's I mean, the foundations are the same. The
Yeah.
technology changes. There's going to be a new social media platform every year, or one's going to go away, or whatever happens to TikTok. But the day-to-day job is the same. You're just going to have different tools on different platforms. RSAs or video ads, or YouTube's changing their ads too. It's just going to
Yeah.
change the technology, but your foundations of marketing 101, that's still the
Mm.
same. And data analysis, and is it reaching the goal or not, that's still the same.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's this lady, Caitlin, butcher her last name, so I'm not gonna try. What she said was like, smart people, keep on top of what's changing. Even really smart people keep on top of the stuff that never change.
Yeah,
Just to keep track of what never changes and just keep following that command, keep monitoring the things that never change. And that's what really we should be doing, monitoring what has never changed for your brand, for marketing, for the digital marketing industry. For some brands, you're a luxury brand, and it's always going to be a luxury brand. So keep that in mind for whatever new shiny tool there is out there. If it's in tandem with it being like, luxury for luxury brands, yeah, sure. If it's not, you stay away from it. That's it.
yeah, definitely.
Can be as simple as that.
Yeah, I think it is. Just stick to the basics, and technology is going to change, but the foundation and the basics stay the same for a marketing job.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, a lot of great takeaways. I think that's a good one to end on. Just real quick, I mean, where can people find you and all your publications and everything to keep up with it?
Sure. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter mainly, even though, yes, Twitter does seem to be a bit of a, yeah,
Yeah, that's
a
crazy right
messy
now.
place for a lot of people. We are still chatting on there. And my handle on Twitter is The Marketing Anu. And yeah, LinkedIn, just my name. Yeah, Anu Adegbola. And the things I'm working on, like PPC Live UK has a company page there. We'd love a follow. We'd love you to join, what we're doing. On there, we have our next event in the UK on the 26th of October. So if you have any UK listeners or subscribers to this channel, it'd
Yeah.
be great for you to join us there. But we do have a free webinar. So if you go to our LinkedIn page, the PPC Live UK LinkedIn page, this Wednesday, I don't know when this episode is coming out, but on Wednesday, the 4th of October, if you've missed it, it will still
Does
be
it
there
kind of
on
keep
my
you keep
channel as
doing
well.
like monthly ones or weekly ones, the webinars?
So the webinars, we do it as a taster to the event that's
Okay.
coming up.
Perfect.
So it will be every 3 months as well. So yeah, because the events have moved quarterly. So we're doing this one in October. So the next one will be maybe January before our February event.
Okay. Well, yeah, this video will be out soon. So if you watch it in time, if not, catch the next one next quarter. Really, really great info. And I'll link to all that wherever this is posted. Again, different social media, but I'll have all the links in it. Thank you so much. This was great. Very informative.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
Bye. All right, everyone, thanks so much for watching our PPC ads training video. If you want more videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Like this video if you found it useful, and any questions, post them in the comments down below. We also have additional training in the description. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.